What's cracking, yo? Welcome back to Boo TV. Appreciate you for stopping in. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, stay notified, and let's get into the topic for today. So this is a video my friend sent me, wanted me to react to it. He knows that I'm not a big fan of Stephen A. Smith, but I have my reasons for that. Kwame Brown pointed a lot of those out to you, but even from an analyst perspective, I have a reason for that. But I don't think Stephen A. When just talking basketball and talking sports, I don't think he's the most egregious person out there. There are ones way more worse than him. But this topic has to do with the recent, I'm sure you all have heard by now, it's been going on for a few days. Well, Scottie's recent remarks about Michael Jordan just being a horrible player and a horrible teammate. That's it in a nutshell. So I guess it's a Stephen A. responding to that, and I was not. It's been circulating. It's been a hot topic for a while, and I haven't put out my own video on it, and I wasn't going to because I just didn't feel like or didn't care about it that much. But he sent me his video, and it has to do with that topic. So we'll see what Stephen A. has to say. I know Stephen A. is going to politely, respectfully rip Scottie Pippen a new asshole. I know he is. And Scottie's been off his rocker for a while. Scottie's been saying some crazy stuff. And a lot of it, some of it does have to do with Michael Jordan and how he feels. I think there's some jealousy there with how Scottie feels about Mike and some animosity there, definitely. But also to put the cherry on the, I don't even want the cherry on the what? How's that saying though? Put the cherry on the cake? No, it's icing on the cake, right? Anyway, to add to all the nonsense is Michael Jordan's son is in an intimate relationship and has been in an intimate relationship with Scottie Pippen's ex-wife. But they're not going to talk about that on ESPN. But I was watching J. Will, Max, whatever that show was called, J. Will, Max, and Keyshawn. And the caller called in, and they was like, let me tell you really about why Pippen's doing all this. And he started bringing up the fact that he's in an intimate relationship. And they were like, no, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about no. But hey, they're not going to talk about that unless it's a scandal that's wrapped around the player itself. They're not going to bring up what his ex-wife and Jordan's son is doing. And you cannot sit here and say that doesn't have something to do with it. Did it start with that? No. But you can understand how that also makes them feel some type of way. But anyway, I'm going to shut up. This is about 20 minutes long, Stephen A.'s rant, and I'll probably interject when I feel necessary, if I feel necessary. And so you're probably looking at 25 to 30 minutes maybe. All right, let's get into it.
I saw what Scottie Pippen had to say. And I have to admit to y'all, I was pretty stunned. I really, really was. Scottie Pippen showed up on a podcast of his former teammate, Stacey King's. And Scottie Pippen got to talking about the great Michael Jordan, a person that I consider to be the greatest who ever lived. Michael Jordan, I want to preface my comments. You know how they put those disclaimers up there and they say, disclaimer, you know, your parental advisories and stuff like that. Let me put this advisory up. Before you listen to what Scottie Pippen had to say about his former teammate, Michael Jeffrey Jordan, I'd like to remind you that Michael Jeffrey Jordan is a 6-time champion. I'd like to remind you that Michael Jordan is a 6-time NBA Finals MVP. I'd like to inform you that Michael Jordan is a 5-time league MVP, a 10-time scoring champion, a 9-time All-NBA defensive first team member. I'd also like to remind you that Michael Jordan, in his 6 championship appearances, undefeated in those 6 championship appearances, never once allowed a championship round to reach 7 games. He took everybody out in 6 or less. He took Magic Johnson with Vlade Divac and Eldon Campbell and all of those boys out. He took Clyde Drexler, Terry Porter, Kevin Duckworth, Cliff Robinson, and all of those boys in Portland out for his second title. He beat Charles Barkley and the great Kevin Johnson and Dan Marley and those boys in Phoenix for the first three-peat. He retired after that title in 93. He was gone in the 93-94 season. He came back with 17 games left in the 95 season, where they ended up losing in the second round to the Orlando Magic. When he had first came back about a week after he returned, after not playing for damn near 2 years, he dropped a double nickel on my New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden. That Michael Jordan. And he came back. And he won titles 4, 5, and 6 from 1996 to 1998. He beat Karl Malone and John Stockton and those boys. He beat Gary Payton and Sean Kemp. He beat Karl Malone and John Stockton again. That Michael Jordan. That is the same Michael Jordan that Scottie Pippen said this about.
I seen Michael Jordan play before I came to play with the Bulls. You guys seen him play. He was a horrible player. He was horrible to play with. He was all one-on-one. He's shooting bad shots. And all of a sudden, we become a team and we start winning. Everybody forgot who he was.
Could y'all do me a favor? I'm looking at my producers here right now. Because I had to stomach that before. I took a little break. And I feel the need to hear that again, one more time, so I can make sure I hear the words that Scottie Pippen associated with Michael Jeffrey Jordan. Play that again.
I seen Michael Jordan play before I came to play with the Bulls. You guys seen him play. He was a horrible player. He was horrible to play with. He was all one-on-one. He's shooting bad shots. And all of a sudden, we become a team and we start winning. Everybody forgot who he was.
My Lord.
Sure, he's about to go in on him, but you got to bring up who Michael Jordan was playing with before they started winning championships, especially those first couple years. People couldn't name. If I've named actually the roster off in a video a long time ago, but people don't even know who these players are. And then bring up the fact that when Scottie Pippen got drafted, he was coming off the bench, and it still took him years before he became the Scottie Pippen that we knew him to be. Scottie had to mature. Horace Grant wasn't even ready to contribute on a championship level when he came in. I'm sure he'll bring it up. Go ahead.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind you all that Scottie Pippen was picked 5th overall, I think in the 87 draft, if I remember correctly. 3 years after Michael Jordan was in the league, Scottie Pippen first averaged 7 points his first year in the league, 14 points his second year in the league. We all know that Scottie Pippen was a great player. We all know he's one of the greatest players to have ever played the game of basketball. We all know that he's an all-world defensive player and he's a 6-time champion himself. There's nothing to take away from his greatness as a player. But he was second fiddle for a reason. Because anybody with eyes, doesn't even require 20/20 vision, by the way, knew that there was Michael Jordan and then there was everybody else. I would like to remind y'all that before Michael Jordan, years before Michael Jordan ever won a title, in 86 and 87 when it was swept in the best-of-5 series by the Boston Celtics, Larry Bird and them, even when he was swept in like 86 and he had dropped 63 in a game at the Boston Garden, the great Larry Bird called Michael Jordan God in gym shorts. God in gym shorts. That's who Scottie Pippen is talking about. That guy. Let me break this down to you from a basketball perspective.
Yeah.
These were Michael Jordan's teammates.
Oh, he's already there.
I wanted to make sure.
Now, Orlando Woolridge was decent. He was decent. I ain't gonna sit here and say Orlando Woolridge was a scrub, but he wouldn't know. He ain't the guy that you want as your wingman for change. He's no Kevin McHale. He's no Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Not at the time. He was no Julius Erving. He's a good player. Good, solid player.
I'll look it up because I didn't want to get any names wrong. His first year in the league, in case you haven't noticed, his coach was Kevin Lockery. Okay, number one. The Chicago Bulls had gone 38-44 that first year Michael Jordan was in the league. This is a rookie. It's a rookie year, ladies and gentlemen. This is 1984, okay? Because I want to make sure we know this is 1984. 1984-85 season. Michael Jordan.
Teammates off.
Out of the University of North Carolina. His teammates are Orlando Woolridge, who was not a scrub, Quentin Daly, Dave Corzine, Dave Greenwood, Steve Johnson, a 34-year-old Caldwell Jones, Enos Watley, Wes Matthews, Jawan Oldham, Sidney Green. That was Michael Jordan's team. Michael Jordan averaged 28.2 points a game as a rookie. I want to take it a step further, okay? Because some of y'all forget sometimes. If you recall, Michael Jordan had only played 18 games the following season, which was 85-86, and he had only started 7 games because he had a messed up foot. And
broken foot. Don't say messed up foot. That thing is broke.
He had been operated on, and he had missed all of those games. And Jerry Krause, the then GM, who was a great executive, by the way, had insisted that Michael Jordan not play and did everything he could to prevent Michael Jordan from returning to the basketball court, essentially implying you will do what the hell you're told to do, which Michael Jordan was incredibly resistant to. That season, Michael Jordan averaged 22.7 a game in 18 games that he played due to the injury. From that point forward, I'm looking at my producers in here. I'm looking at all of y'all in here. I want everybody to pay attention to what I'm saying. This is Michael Jeffrey Jordan that we're talking about here. This was Michael Jordan's scoring averages on a minimum of 48% shooting from the field over the course of the next 7 years.
Minimum 48%. All right. Jordan's career with the Chicago Bulls, he shot over 50% from the field. So for people that like to make it seem like Mike was just taking bad shots and missing a bunch of the shots, he was highly efficient, especially considering the spacing in his era of play. Highly efficient. High shooting percentage. Not a whole lot of three-pointers.
37, 35, 32.5, 33.6, 31.5, 30.1, 32.6. That's who we're talking about. We're talking about Air Jordan. We're talking about a dude that took the NBA into a stratosphere that is appropriately described as global, if not otherworldly. There's no dream team in Barcelona without Jordan.
That's true.
The NBA, as great as it was with Magic Johnson and Larry Bird being promoted extensively by the NBA, they altered their marketing plans because Nike had Jordan. And everybody wanted to see Jordan. Jordan was damn near as big as Michael Jackson. That's who Scottie Pippen just said was a horrible player. Now, one could easily deduce what Scottie Pippen said and simply ask a very rhetorical question. If Jordan was horrible, what the hell did that make you? But that would be disrespectful to Scottie Pippen. And Scottie Pippen doesn't deserve that. But you know what Scottie Pippen deserves? He deserves to hear the truth. Somebody has to tell him. Several truths come to mind. Number one, you are not one I have too much respect for Scottie Pippen to categorize him in this fashion. But how you sound on this particular footage of you talking about Michael Jordan, you sound like a damn fool. You sound like an ignorant dude that don't know the game. We know better than that. We know how brilliant you are at knowing the game, Scottie Pippen. We know how knowledgeable you are. So it only brings two other things to mind about you, bro. Envy and bitterness. Those are the two things. Let's count the ways. Number one, you weren't Michael Jordan. First of all, you knew that. You knew it when he left the game. You knew it when you would wear Jordan sneakers when you were on the court.
Pointing.
And you would kick your feet up for the cameras to see.
I remember that.
You clamoring for Michael Jordan to come back.
Yep.
You didn't hate him then. You didn't hate him when...
I remember that. I think he put the shoe up, pointed at it, come back.
You needed him. Was it Jordan's fault in 1994 when you were going up against the Knicks in the Eastern Conference semifinals and it was game 3 and you refused to enter a game because Phil Jackson called the last play for Tony Kukoc instead of you? And Bill Cartwright, the veteran center, Bill Cartwright, there was a former Knick that got traded to the Chicago Bulls in the Charles Oakley deal years earlier, that he was sitting on the bench scolding you while the cameras were rolling? Wasn't it Bill Cartwright who was reduced to tears in the aftermath of Tony Kukoc hitting the game-winning shot that Phil Jackson had called for him against the New York Knicks in that game 3? Wasn't it Bill Cartwright that was reduced to tears because he looked you dead in your face in front of the whole team and talked about you quit on him and you let him down? Wasn't that you? Did Michael Jordan, was he at fault for that? Can anybody on this planet have ever imagined Michael Jordan refusing to enter the game because a final shot wasn't called for him? You know why you can't imagine that? Because Michael Jordan would have had the final shot called for him. And you know what Michael Jordan would have done? He would have kicked it to John Paxson, or he would have kicked it to Steve Kerr, or he would have kicked it to B.J. Armstrong, or Craig Hodges before them. I understand that there's a whole bunch of bitterness going on about Michael Jordan. I get all of that. Because Michael Jordan's clearly received entirely too much of the shine in some of his teammates' eyes. I've heard other teammates talking about him. But it amazes me how everybody want to engage in revisionist history and talk about him now. Well, why didn't you talk about him when he was popular? Why didn't you talk about him when y'all were playing him with him? Why didn't you talk about him when he was on the court?
You know, I remember when I was young, people would used to say that, I'd hear people, not many people, but a few people would say, Scottie don't like Jordan, or something like that. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, yeah, whatever. Never talk. I don't know where they got that from. I don't know what their source was. But I remember a very small group saying that. And then when The Last Dance came out, and a lot of The Last Dance I knew, but there was also some stuff in there that I had not heard before, I didn't know about. And some that Scottie was feeling some type of way about things. And then in the aftermath of The Last Dance, Scottie came out ripping Jordan and some other players. But especially Scottie. And he hasn't let off since. Regardless if he's trying to sell a book or not. Yeah.
Averaging over 30, busting people's ass night in, night out, intimidating folks in ways LeBron James never has. And it's not to throw shade on LeBron James. I'm just saying, Michael Jordan was different. How come you didn't talk about him then? How come you didn't talk about him when he was in your face as your teammate, helping you become a champion 6 times over? How come that didn't happen then? If somebody like Craig Hodges wants to be bitter about Michael Jordan, I'm down with that. Because I don't know the details. And even if I did, I wouldn't tell you without their permission as it pertains to Craig Hodges and Michael Jordan. But I will tell you this about Craig Hodges. He's a deep brother. He's a special man. And boy, was he a long-range sniper. He was something special. He really, really was. And that brother deserved to be a champion. He deserved to be on the Bulls roster for years to come. He deserved to be honored. So if there's any bitterness about him, I'm cool with it. If it's coming from him, I'm cool with it. But you, Scottie Pippen, you had an opportunity to win without Jordan. You didn't do it. You know you probably bitter about that money that you didn't get from Jerry Reinsdorf, the owner of the Bulls, who implored you to your face, do not sign this deal. This is not a good deal for you. I know the guaranteed money looks good right now, but it'll be a better deal for you in a year or two from now, and you wanted the money now. And so you took it when he advised you not to. And Jordan advised you not to, but you still signed the deal. And then ended up bitter because they wouldn't restructure your deal. And to some degree held that against Jordan. Did you hate him when he had the flu? Or was poisoned by some pizza delivered to his room or whatever it was against Utah in the finals? And he still went out there and dropped about 38? And when he hit the game-winning shot, came back to the bench and walking back practically collapsed in your arms. You had to hold him up because he was so sick. But you needed him to take that shot, didn't you? How about when your back gave out? We ain't bringing up the migraine in 88 when you couldn't go in a game 7 against Detroit. We ain't even bringing that up. When Jordan was reduced to tears because the championship kept evading him and he was crying in the arms of his father on the team bus because somehow, some way, yet again, you couldn't show up. There was an intestinal fortitude that you had when y'all were winning championships, but that had to be cultivated and developed over the years because earlier on in your career, Scottie Pippen, you didn't have it. He had it. And he had to carry the load and carry you. And look at how your game evolved. And look at how elite you became as a defensive player, as a ball handler, as a playmaker. Your game, to some degree, looked like it mirrored Jordan half the time. You were clearly learning from him. But now we want to forget that. Now we want to forget that, Scottie. And why are we doing that? Because your feelings are hurt about The Last Dance? Because Jordan had editorial control, according to you? Because he had editorial control and he highlighted the portions of how you didn't want to sign for the money and you was end up bitter because you didn't get your contract, or he wanted to sit up there and highlighted how you quit on your team. You want to hold that against him. Scottie Pippen, don't hold it against Jordan. Hold it against broadcast journalism. Hold it against television. Hold it against executives, great executives at the time, like Connor Shell, who's only now got his own production company and doing great things, who's my former boss at ESPN, and by the way, a great guy. Hold it against people like him for knowing television and knowing what the hell people want to see. We respect all the great players on the Chicago Bulls. It starts with Scottie Pippen. Stacey King did his job. Bill Wennington did his job. Luke Longley did his job. Bill Cartwright did his job. Horace Grant did his job. Dennis Rodman damn sure did his job. B.J. Armstrong did his job. Greg Hodges did his job. John Paxson did his job. Steve Kerr did his job. The list goes on and on and on for Bulls teammates that did their damn jobs. Phil Jackson, 6 championships. They never won until they got Phil Jackson as the head coach. They never won until Tex Winter introduced that triangle offense. They never won before that. Mad love and respect, no doubt. But we don't care. Even during the pandemic, when no sports was going on, there is no way in hell that the kind of views that you saw for The Last Dance would have happened if it did not feature Michael Jordan. We would not have cared. He's the greatest. We saw it with our own 2 eyes. You were great, Scottie, and even with greatness, even with your greatness, you were not in his class. It was good television that was provided to a starving audience in desperate need of riveting content with no sports being played due to the pandemic. And there's no way in hell we were interested in The Last Dance if The Last Dance was about Michael Jordan, but everybody else equally. It had to evolve around him. So he told his story. He talked about how you were going to walk out the door and you were going to leave. He had to bring up why that was because of what transpired early in your career as a Chicago Bulls. whether it was not entering the game or it was signing a bad contract. He had to do that. He had to highlight the things about Horace Grant. He had to highlight things about others. That's what made the story. You're telling a story. Are you that mad, Scottie? Is it personal? Is it just about basketball? Is it about the son dating the ex-wife?
Oh, he's bringing it up. See, this is his platform on YouTube. This is not under the scope of ESPN, even though he's an ESPN representative. But I did not expect him. The minute he said, "Or is there something else? Is it personal?" And that's why I pointed. I was like, Steve. Now I thought he was just gonna leave it at that and just be like, "Is it personal?" and then just move on. But no, he's actually going into it. Bravo, Stephen. Bravo, Stephen A. Bravo. Let him know. Let him know. He's covering everything that I mentioned and some. I gotta rewind that. That was good.
Is it just about basketball? Is it about the son dating the ex-wife? I'm not passing judgment. I'm just saying you wearing your bitterness on your sleeve for a reason. It ain't cool. It ain't right. It's beyond wrong. And whether you like it or not, it's total betrayal. You're taking shots at Michael Jordan at every turn. Was he supposed to give you a job? Was he supposed to make sure there was money in your pocket? Did he not come to you with a Nike deal that he wanted you to sign to ensure that you would continue to get paid, and you passed that up? It's Stephen A. you listening to, baby. You know that's a rhetorical question. You know I know the answer. Come on, man. You chill with all that. You're 57 years old. You're 57. Tomorrow ain't promised to none of us.
Time is flying, man.
Michael Jordan doesn't deserve that from you. He has never failed to say he would have never won anything without you.
True.
He has never failed to say that you're the greatest teammate he has ever had. He has never failed to acknowledge his appreciation for what we all know to be your greatness.
Yes.
As an iconic NBA talent. You don't have to sink to these lows, bro. You really should be ashamed of yourself. Still trying to sell a book? Still?
Ain't nobody buying that joint.
Y'all talking to a bestseller. I would know something about selling books. New York Times bestseller, 9 weeks. I know something about it. Straight shooter. Memoirs, second chances, and first takes. I wrote a book too. I ain't do nothing like that. Come on, bro. Come
on. Hey, did Stephen A. say a single thing that was inaccurate? Not from what I can see. I think he was pinpoint on everything, right on the mark. Bullseye was Stephen A. Smith. I don't always agree with this guy, but this time I agree with everything he said. And like I said, I wasn't even going to do a video. This happened like almost a week ago when the news broke, if I'm not mistaken. At least a handful of days, and I was just like, yeah, I don't want to talk about it. But, you know, he gave me his video, and here we are. And, hey, Stephen A. I couldn't have said that any better than Stephen A. Any better. And Mike, like I said, Mike has always said great things about Scottie. Always appreciated him. Always spoke of how great he was and how he wouldn't have his championships without Scottie as his running mate. So I always said glowing things about him. Always. Anywho, Stephen A covered that pretty well. I agree with everything. And Scottie he needs to let it go. My personal. Just dude, let it go. Let it go. And I know the whole ex-wife, Michael Jordan's son thing has something to do with it. It's added fuel to the fire. But, dude. Meanwhile, Michael Jordan's relaxing, smoking a cigar in Cuba with his wife and a bottle of Brown in his hand, not even thinking about anybody else, not even thinking of you. Carefree. Lending his energy to things he wants to lend his energy to, but you're here wasting your time and your energy going on 60 years old soon-ish. And you're exerting your energy to a guy that's not paying you no attention. Nobody's going to change their thoughts and opinions about Michael Jordan because of the stuff you are saying, Scottie. I don't know if you're trying to start a revolution or what, but it's not going to happen. And as you continue to spiral this direction, you're going to become more and more and more and less credible and just lose people completely. And you've already started going that way. That's my final thought. Like, comment, subscribe. You guys let me know what you think about this one in the comment section. And I'll catch you on the next one. We out, baby.